So particularly excited for our interview today, hanging out with Comcast, telling our 50 summers of Pittsburgh tech, and hanging out with Josh Lucas of Work Hard Pittsburgh. I've known Josh since before his days at Work Hard Pittsburgh. And I think now he's like the de facto mayor of of all things Allentown and everything like that, because he's just taken over in such a good way to put some vibrancy and immediacy to one of Pittsburgh's really important neighborhoods. And so, Josh, I'm so glad you're hanging out with us today. I cannot wait to catch up with you because it's been too long. I know this whole COVID thing's been crazy on everybody, but I know you guys are pretty scrappy, and Work Hard and Academy are going to figure their way around this. That's for sure. So, man, thanks for hanging out.
Thanks, buddy. I'm happy to be here and telling good stories about the interesting neighborhoods all around town.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I always like to give people just a quick background. I mean, you were a chemistry teacher at one point. You were also founder of some tech startups at one point.
Yeah.
And then you got this bug where you're like, wait a second, I have this idea about this Work Hard Pittsburgh thing. I just think your story is pretty amazing. Give us a little of the quick tour as to Josh Lucas and what the hell made you throw it all away to do Work Hard Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I mean, I spent over a decade in public education, teaching high school chemistry in an economically depleted neighborhood. Around year 13, I started getting a little anxious, a little burnout, and thought it best to seek other endeavors. Soon after, we launched a startup that tried to crowdsource political speech. So
Red Blue Voice.
Yeah, Red Blue Voice. So if you think about, sort of what Facebook is doing now and selling the ability to allow anybody to be an advocate around a particular issue. We tried to build that platform back in 2011 and get it funded.
So cool when you think about that. You guys were a little bit ahead of the curve back then.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. It would have been nicer maybe if we would have waited a year or two, so we wouldn't have been so ahead of the curve. Makes it hard to raise money sometimes if you're ahead of the curve. And so, I mean, we just learned a lot of lessons kind of related to that around, what it takes to be a startup in Pittsburgh. And we've built Work Hard Pittsburgh to try to create bridges and other modes to take products to market. So Work Hard Pittsburgh is a cooperatively organized business incubator. And as such, it has a suite of products underneath it that its membership builds and takes to market and tries to make money with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you first put this model up, I'd never really heard of anything quite like this. I thought it was quite unique. What was your inspiration and what made you choose Allentown? Because Allentown's one of those neighborhoods where you don't always hear about Allentown, but it's kind of cool because it's nestled right between the South Side and like Knoxville and like all these little neighborhoods. And it's pretty actually accessible to downtown Pittsburgh if you got some legs to climb up and down the hill.
Yeah, I mean, the inspiration is just the practical reality of being a unfunded startup in Pittsburgh, right?
Okay.
Like, you have to be resourceful and find other modes to get a product ready to start and scale. And so we thought we could systematize some of those things and make it a little easier for people to do something without the need for early stage capital. Allentown, it was an economic decision more than anything. I mean, It was a neighborhood that had seen neglect for 3 or 4 decades, and there were opportunities in there around real estate and partners like RE360 who holds a lot of commercial property up here. And at the time, we had a really good economic development corporation executive officer who saw the need to bring in tech-related office space as a way to drive foot traffic and create a business district that could be thriving again and support restaurants and coffee shops and a little bit of retail. And our mandate from the beginning was to do that as equitably, as fairly, and as cautiously as we could, so that we weren't gentrifiers or displacers.
Yeah, that's a tough balance right there, because you have these neighborhoods where, yes, they're falling apart, but they have their community in place already, though. People are still living there, and so they just kind of come in and say, "Hey, we know better. We'll fix it." It's like you can't do that, but you want to go in there because you can obviously be helpful. You can obviously find ways to make things happen. But yeah, so you've had to walk a tight line for a while, I guess, huh?
Well, and that's why we're a co-op, right? Like the idea is that any wealth that we build here in the neighborhood is wealth that can be shared through a cooperative model of organizing an LLC or a C Corp. So our biggest protection against being displacers or gentrifiers is just that. Like, this is an open ownership model. Anybody from the neighborhood, and we actively recruit in the neighborhood, can come and be part of this organization and help launch these products and contribute.
I love it. You're like, I feel like you're like perfectly blending this like, it's like model of like business sense to like actually make some money and get stuff, but also being very cognizant of the community around you and the people and empowering them as you're helping them to make money and to be, you know, better people and more productive and all that kind of good stuff. And I just think it's such a cool model that like, you need to like license this out to like other regions and other neighborhoods and stuff. So I just think it's so unique, and I just love the way it works. And obviously it's working. You guys are there, you're doing it, and you're even surviving all the craziness as what's happening here with the whole COVID pandemic. How have you guys been faring on that so far?
Yeah, well, thanks for all the kind words. It's hard, you know, like we were talking a little bit before you started rolling. You know, we lost a quarter of income basically across all of our different products that are out there generating revenue for us. But we know we have a pretty diverse portfolio of ways that we make money. So as some have definitely died off because of the economic situation, the reality of quarantine, others have picked up a little bit because of the economic situation and the realities of quarantine. So our diverse portfolio, I think, has given us some resiliency that is great, and other people unfortunately don't necessarily have the benefit of.
You're diversified. I like that. So what's been on the uptick?
Well, Academy Pittsburgh is definitely on the uptick, right? Like, people understand the need for condensed training. So Academy Pittsburgh is our web developer boot camp.
Let's talk about Academy, because I think Academy is so cool, because I know you've worked on iterations of this thing over the years, and I think you've got this model now set where I think it's just so unique in the marketplace. You take folks that need skills, that are super smart people, but they don't have the ability to get the skills to have cool programming jobs that are in huge demand here in Pittsburgh and beyond, but finding ways that they can take those courses, and then once they get a job, be able to then pay it back and be able to pay for the training they had. So tell us how it works and kind of how you were able to get to this iteration that apparently is working, because I know it seems like all your cohorts are filling up very quickly.
So in 2016, we launched as just a conventional developer boot camp. We didn't invent condensed technical training or web developer boot camps.
Right.
But we've always had an eye on trying to do this differently and more equitably. So 65% of the people that go through our boot camp come from some underrepresented group in tech, whether that's women, African Americans, Latinos, veterans, refugees. We realize that upfront tuition is not equitable, right? If you have to pay 12 grand out of pocket and take 12 weeks off of your full-time job and take care of your kid, you know, that's privilege, right? That's going to restrict who can participate in this kind of training. That has historically had great outcomes, right? Like, most boot camps place over 85% of their graduates into full-time jobs. In Pittsburgh, those jobs average about $55,000 a year as salary.
And that's like life-changing salary for many people as well, too. I mean, that is literally the difference between just getting by barely and actually like living a life and being productive.
Solidly middle class in Pittsburgh at 56K,
exactly.
right? Yeah, so we work on an ISA model, an income share agreement model. So folks don't pay us until they get full-time jobs, and their full-time jobs, they have to make over 45 grand a year before we trigger any kind of payment back. When they get that job, they pay us back 10% of their net income for 24 non-consecutive months. So on average, most people pay us back between 9 and 11 grand. For what is, usually a career that has a lot of upward mobility. So after a year or two of being in that $55,000 a year job, most of our grads end up in 70, 75K a year jobs. And as they mature as web developers, because the demand is so high, we have folks making 110, 120 grand a year in the Pittsburgh market.
And then it pays their thing back faster as well, too. So the more you make, the faster you get paid back. You get your money back. You can then reinvest that back into the next group of people and keep it going as far as that is.
Because we don't want to give you training that has no value. We believe that all training, especially adult training, that isn't part of some larger liberal arts degree.
If only it was. Come on.
needs to be based on job market demand. And so as long as there is a high demand for web developers, we'll continue to do this. And now we're trying to figure out, like, what are the other boot camps here regionally to
Right.
launch that can also provide those kind of quick access to good employment.
Very cool. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming then the places that you're placing these students, or when they find jobs, they got to be pretty pumped to know that like they're hiring talent that has learned a really intense skill set in a quick amount of time, and that by them being employed there is going to change their life significantly, because they're going to be making, like you said, that solid middle class salary. You know, let's strive for middle class, everybody. It's all good. And that, to me, I just feel like, man, that it's just working on so many levels once again. Like you guys are you're ticking all these really cool boxes. That's why I'm so glad you're telling us this story here today, John.
Yeah.
What you guys are doing, like you're not slacking up there in Allentown. The thin air and the heights of Allentown has not kept you from getting stuff done.
So we're hanging in there, even though probably a little more lightheaded than folks on the south side. But it's it's capitalism working, right? Like there's a high demand for talent, and so that makes organizations take risks on unconventionally trained
Right.
people, right? They're not 4-year CS degrees. They are literally the blue collar worker of the modern economy. Being able to write some JavaScript is the equivalent of being able to machine a part for an automobile 60 years ago. It's
Exactly.
just a skill that can be easily taught, and everybody needs it now. Everybody needs a web developer. Public schools, small businesses, nonprofits, everybody needs it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if people want to participate in these, I guess there's a call for cohorts. I think one's happening in September, possibly. How often do you do these? What's the best way for people to like plug in and check it out?
Yeah, so we're doing 2 a year now, and as a way to kind of condense that and give us more room for additional programming later. Just go to academypgh.com. There's an application cycle that's probably going to be open until the session fills up. It'll probably fill up sometime in August. So if you're going to apply, want to get your application sooner rather than later. It's first come, first serve. And like I said, we're very careful to make sure that the racial and gender balance of the class reflects the region's racial and gender
Very cool.
Demographics. I think that's the word I'm looking for.
And if people want to hang out at Work Hard and use some space and be part of what you guys are up to, just go to workhardpgh.com and check it out there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the co-op, is always looking for new members to be part of the co-op. We want you to have some skill that you're going to bring into the ecosystem that helps us take new products to market. And that doesn't have to be technical skill. You can be a great salesperson. You can be great at social media. You can be a videographer, a photographer. There's a whole suite of skills that can help us do better and help other people take their businesses to scale.
Definitely.
I would also sort of just add to that, we act as a creative and technical agency. So if you're looking for 1099 contract work, or if you have a particular skill that you're trying to market in the region, we usually have some gig flow from third-party clients that we can kick to you to help you figure out your own freelance life as well.
Very cool, man. All the way around. Love talking to you. So I always have my Comcast question, and actually you've already answered this question by all the work that you're doing, but I'm gonna have to just ask it one more time and see if there's anything else that you can apply towards this.
Yeah.
So as we know, we're trying to raise some money for the neighborhood allies and beyond the laptops, because it's just become so apparent how big our digital divide is. And so what are your thoughts on ways that we can shrink this digital divide? You're already doing so much work, so you're already getting A+, but give us more.
Yeah, so shout out to Neighborhood Allies. They're a long-time collaborator and an important part of this region's racial equity conversation. The reality is, Jonathan, white people have to use their privilege to lift Black and Latino voices and career paths higher. So we have to be anti-racist and activists at all levels. So if you are an HR person or a CEO or in a hiring role, it's your obligation to go and find the Black and Latino candidates to inject into your organization and to train them and to support them culturally inside the organization so that they can be successful. And if we all do that, then that equity gap's going to go away pretty quick.
I love it, man. Simple as that, Josh. Always fantastic catching up with you. A big fan of your work at Work Hard Pittsburgh and, of course, Academy. Thanks for taking the time. everyone, you got to check this guy out. He's making Pittsburgh a much better place. That's for sure. Thanks, Josh. You're the best.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.